Alright, my dogs of war, it is time for the Mad Max Q&A. As always, if I didn't answer someone's question, that usually means YouTube marked it as spam, so I want to apologize in advance for that. But having said that, you shall all now witness me! Now then, let's get started with Adhavan Rajingsam, whose first question is, what's your favorite one-liner from the 4 Mad Max movies? Witness me! That just sums up everything right there. Just those 2 words. Just sums up everything in Mad Max. Just the pure insanity of it. That or... they're both from Fury Road. Oh, what a day! What a lovely day! Anyway. Second question. Considering Max's former job as a cop, what do you think his reaction would be if he saw Judge Dredd out in the wastelands enforcing the law? I think he would be... At this point, Max is completely insane and forgot being a cop, so I think he would see this heavily armored man dispensing justice and be like, fuck. Anyway, third question. Which Mad Max characters do you want to see participate in one of the wacky races? The Bullet Farmer from Fury Road. I think that would be a lot of fun to see that. Here's another question, bringing this up real quick. Why, in regards to the Twisted Metal games, seriously, why isn't there any DLCs of, Mad Max? Why aren't there any Mad Max DLCs? I mean, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Like having Immortan Joe in his car, or Mad Max in his car, as, DLC guest characters? Come on, that makes so much sense. But anyway, thank you for those questions, Adhavan. Moving on now to Jason Voorhees 2011, who asks, if the world suddenly went to shit and becoming something like the post-apocalyptic world we see in the films, what would you do and try to survive? Probably form my own gang of, S&M dressed savages and just go around pillaging, Lord Humongous style. There you go. Do something like that. Anyway, second question. Favorite vehicle used in the movies? My favorite vehicle it's not really a vehicle, but I just think it's awesome. The Doof Warriors car. Just that huge truck with six people banging on kettle drums while having the one guy with a flaming guitar just spray fire everywhere. And yeah. Seriously, I think, I think George Miller, when he was making Fury Road, I think he stopped one day and was like, you know what? I want, this movie's not crazy enough. Let me introduce a character called the Doof Warrior. That's how I feel like it went down. And your final question is, how would the Lagoon Company survive in the world of Mad Max, and what would the reactions be to Max himself, Furiosa, and various psychopaths inhabiting the wasteland? I think if anyone was going to survive, in terms of anime, the world of Mad Max, when it all goes to shit, it would definitely be the shithole that is Roanapur, because it's pretty much fine enough, good enough as it is. So it would just be like, yeah, we're accustomed to being horrible, cruel people, so this is nothing new. So, although you'd have to imagine that the Lagoon Company themselves would be pretty old at this point. Like, they would be, I think Revy would be in her mid to late 30s, to her early 40s at best. But I think she would still be kicking ass. Hell, I would even, it would not surprise me if, Revy gave birth to Max. Headcanon accepted, I guess not really. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Jason. Moving on now to Omnitron12345, who asks, what do you think is the most excuse me. Let me rephrase that. Omnitron12345 asks, what do you think? Do you think Mad Max is almost a continuation of the concept of a Western, as Max himself is very much fits the old Clint Eastwood man with no name archetype. Yeah, I believe it, because those are kind of what all the Mad Max films are, is that these all one-and-done stories, and the character just moseons to the next adventure. He just kind of wanders in these situations. So yeah, you can clearly see a lot of Western influence in all four of these films by George Miller. So I think it's just pretty much a post-apocalyptic Western. That's the best way to look at Mad Max, really. Anyway, second question. Do you think Fist of the North Star is basically Mad Max the anime? Yes, it is. And actually, and someone else answered this as well, is that the creator of Fist of the North Star actually pretty much said, yeah, Mad Max was a huge influence on me for making this anime. And yeah, the best way you can look at Fist of the North Star is more or less, instead of getting Mel Gibson or Tom Hardy to play Mad Max, imagine if they instead casted Bruce Lee as Max. That's the best way to look at Fist of the North Star. Instead of Mel Gibson, we have Bruce Lee as Max. That's the best way you can really look at it. So, your third question is, what would happen if Finn from Adventure Time was teleported and stranded in the Mad Max universe? Man, he would just be totally dumbstruck because, the world of Ooo is very bright and colorful. This is bleak and depressing. I'm pretty sure he would go crazy. Yeah. So, that's pretty much how I look at it. So think of those questions, Omnitron. Moving on now to Major Badass, who asks, Major Badass, first question is, what character from any game, show, movie would you like to see in the post-apocalyptic world of Mad Max? The more random, ridiculous, the better. And what character characters do you think would survive the longest, and who would survive the shortest? Well, I guess Kenshiro, because he exists in the same universe from Fist of the North Star, and he kind of exists in a world that's very much like Mad Max's, so put Kenshiro in this universe, for shits and giggles, Mordecai and Rigby, just to see how long they'll survive. Who else? I guess Eren Yeager from... Although he just bitch and moan about everything, really. That's pretty much my interpretation of the first question. Second question, what aspects of society specifically would you like to see what happened to it, like sports, zoos, and even porn? I can't even imagine the third one in this kind of universe, Badass, so I'm not even going to talk about it. Zoos, I kind of imagine zoos have now become they're now owned by people who are just caging abnormal people with radioactive poisoning, or they're just they have defects due to radiation poisoning, and now they're being locked up by people who consider themselves normal to be treated like animals in a zoo. Sports, we have Thunderdome, don't we? That's a sport in this world, I guess. How long do you realistically think you could last in the world of Mad Max? 3 days. And that's a nice estimate. Alright. So think of those questions, Major Badass. Moving on now to Darth Venom, who asks, what are some of your favorite moments from any of the Mad Max films? The introduction of the Lord Humongous. The ending scene in Road Warrior. Thunderdome. Well, I'm trying to think of what I liked about... It's not that I hate Thunderdome. It's just that I don't care for it. Same for the first Mad Max film. That's kind of like with all Mad Max fans, is that it's like, what are the two good movies? Fury Road and Road Warrior. I guess the title needs road in it to be good. The Doof Warrior from Fury Road. All of Fury Road when I think about it, and yeah. Anyway. Second question. Could Max ride any of the following vehicles? The Batmobile, Herbie the Love Bug, Bumblebee, Lightning McQueen, and Knight Rider. Yeah, I think he could ride them all. I think that's a possibility, yeah. And your third question is, if Max gets stranded in Jurassic Park, how would he survive? He's mad. He'll find a way out. Anyway, so Eudros Vaslores, thank you for those questions, by the way, Darth Venom, but Eudros asks, if you could build your own custom car or have any of the cars from the movies, what would it be? I think if I was going to custom build a car, I think I would do something like the lower half of a tank and the upper half of, I don't know, some armored car of some sorts, and just call it the Fuckinator, because it's gonna fuck your day up. Yeah. Or as one of my friends, because a friend of mine and I talked about this, and we talked about cars, and he thought of a thing called the Pussy Licker. And I asked him, much to my chagrin, why do you call it the Pussy Licker? And he said, because it's going to make everybody moist when I drive by in it. And I'm like, even men? Especially men. What the fuck? Yeah, so... God, I have a weird circle of friends the more I think about it. Anyway, moving on. Second question. Between the Bullet Farmer, the People Eater, and Immortan Joe, who would you join in the apocalypse? Probably Joe, because the Bullet Farmer seems... well, they're all crazy, but... yeah, the People Eater just looks gross, and I want to punch him in the face every time. Bullet Farmer... he's out of his mind, and probably... he looks like a guy who would shoot somebody for less. Immortan Joe, at least it looks like being a war boy would be fun. Alright, third question. In a fight between Max and Indiana Jones, who would win? Max has got skill, but so does Jones, and he's encountered a lot. I might give it to Indiana Jones. I might actually give it to Indiana Jones in this one. But it's going to be close, but that's just me, though. Same for those questions. Moving on now to Matt Bennett, who asks, what makes Mad Max so great to you? What makes Mad Max so great for me? What makes Mad Max so fun for me? I'm going to have to say just how batshit insane it can be, especially Road Warrior and Fury Road. Just watch those two films in particular, and even Thunderdome, and just be like, wow, these goddamn... What is George Miller on when he's writing these films? Second question. Do you think that the Fallout universe and Mad Max universe are similar enough to exist as one? I'd honestly believe that. I really would, because you get the sense that Mad Max takes place all in Australia. I think at this point we can all think, well, this is probably what's left of Australia, so... yeah, and you could have Fallout all the way still in America, so... yeah, I would headcanon accept it, I guess. And Max versus a Deathclaw, who wins? I'm gonna give that one to Max. Anyway. Anyway, so thank you for those questions, Matt. Thank you for those questions, Matt. Moving on now to Mitch Meister, who asks, given that the world of Mad Max is set in the fallout of a nuclear holocaust, do you think that the next upcoming Max film should be a face-off against cannibalistic radioactive mutants, kind of like Mutants and Hills Have Eyes 2? I don't know, because that's just something everyone goes to in the apocalypse. Radioactive cannibals. Everyone's done that before, and that's what I like about George Miller's films, because he usually uses, in the Mad Max films, he uses stuff that you don't really expect a lot of in the apocalypse. Was anyone gonna expect the Doof Warrior? No. So, I don't know, I just think it'd be just too generic for Miller's work, you know? Moving on, second question. With an actor who portrayed Toe Cutter in the first Mad Max film portraying Immortan Joe in the fourth, would you like to see previous actors, actresses portray other characters in the upcoming films, and who would you pick? Pretty much the actor who played the announcer for the Lord Humongous, because that guy's hysterical. So, that's my only pick. Third question. With more Mad Max films in the future, what would you like to see plot-wise? With the world coming out of the nuclear holocaust and into a civilization, or stay in chaos? I'd like to see a film where what happens is that Max finds himself in like a community that Max finds himself in a community that's like trying to get back together